As Hans Olsen has moved on to the corporate world, we're looking for the next great Utah sports radio talent.
There's something for everyone.
While we do that, you get stuck with this guy.
Hey, everybody, here's our star.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Yeah, well, guess what? We're a few days into this, Lloyd, and we've already exhausted all of our friends. We're done now.
One of those days, man. Having a day, Scotty, having a day.
Having a day. Welcome into the program. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Out and about today, Tim Daly, Nissan. Come on by, hang out. The Southtown location, Tyler and the crew ready to hook you up. I bought a bunch of Nissans from these guys. Tyler's a good dude, and they will take care of you. We'll talk to Tyler throughout the show. We've got a lot to break down. Jay Stevens is going to talk and preview the USA in their showdown against Sweden. And also, how about Canada? Nearly lost. Had to get into overtime to beat mighty Chechnya, but found a way to get it done. And so Canada moves on from the quarterfinals when it looked like for a moment they were going to lay an egg. And I was all Team Canada because I want to see a Canada-United States gold medal game. I just want to see those two battle it out. I don't care about Chechnya. I don't care about Sweden. I don't care about anything else. I want to see that matchup. So, yes, I was cheering for Team Canada. I know there's a lot of people that get a little sideways with Canada every now and then, but, Lloyd, I was all about Canada. Find a way to win that game because I do not want to be cheated out of a gold medal game between those two teams.
No, I'm so with you. I heard people like, man, come on, Chechnya. I'm like, no, let's get the best. The U.S. and Canada. That's beat the best. Get the gold because if you beat Chechnya, it's not going to matter.
No.
Like it doesn't mean the same. It's gonna be like it's like lucking your way into a gold.
How many people watched that dopey Disney movie about Herb Brooks and the 1980 Olympic team, and didn't know that the Soviet Union was actually the semifinal game? Like people think that was for the gold medal. Actually, no. They had to play another game after that to win the gold medal. And nobody know. Was it Sweden? I don't even remember who it was against. Like nobody knows about that. Like it's about beating the big gun at their sport. And so, yeah, like come on, Canada, let's go.
And had there been an upset against Canada today, that would have been the story.
Yes,
that was going to be the story.
Like, oh well, Team USA is going to cruise to an easy gold victory because somebody knocked out Canada before the United States could get a hold of them. So, yeah, there would be an asterisk next to it, much like the Barry Bonds home run record. Everybody would be like, is it real? Is it real?
I know you're mad at me today. I'm not mad at you. I'm out to get you today, but I'm not. And so you don't need to take just random shots at Barry Bonds. That wasn't even called for.
What's Barry up to these days? Is he still coaching? Like, I haven't even.
You know what? I think he's doing as a hitting coach. I'm not sure if it's still with the Giants. I think it's still with the Giants. He was a hitting coach, but, yeah, I'm not sure exactly right now what he's up to. He's being robbed out of being in the Hall of Fame. I do know that.
I'm surprised he hasn't shown up on those, like, Doug Flutie Big Hurt commercials, like pushing testosterone or whatever the stuff those guys are hammering home these days.
Yeah, that would be a good place for him, I guess.
I mean, come on. No, hey, look, if you want to get ripped out of your mind, is there anybody better to tell you how to get it done than Barry Bonds? That makes sense. All right, we'll talk a little hockey with Jay Stevens coming up at 12:30. At 1:05, David James will join us. We got a lot to talk to DJ about because, frankly, from the Olympics to the BYU game coming up tonight to Utah State and Boise State coming up tonight to the Jazz kicking off the rest of the season to the tank gate going on. DJ's got opinions on everything. So we'll talk to him coming up at 1:05. I believe our good friend Trevor Reilly, who is on an island in Hawaii right now, will join us at 1:30. I just texted him. I'm like, hey, hop on the show with me, 1:30. We'll talk some Utah football, Morgan and the new staff. And he said, no problem. I'm in Hawaii, so I guess I will call. So I'm taking that as a commitment, Lloyd.
I'm assuming he's got cell service because I got another scripture. So
yeah,
I'm assuming he has cell service there because I am getting those still on the regular.
And yes, the scripture did come in today at 11:57. If people don't know who Trevor Reilly is, Ute legend, really good dude. a little quirky, and he has gotten behind making Lloyd it's his ultimate goal is to get Lloyd baptized. Like that's his mission in life is to find a way to convert Lloyd to the predominant faith. And so because of that, every day he sends out little scripture verses, a little screenshot of a scripture that he's reading. Now, I don't really appreciate this, but Lloyd somehow got me involved in this. So now every day, and I'm showing Brant, these little scriptures come in from Trevor Reilly, and it's like,
Truth is,
I appreciate it, Trevor.
I don't
Thank
know how in good standing you really are. I'll be honest. So
what's that supposed to mean?
I just don't know. I just don't know if you're living life right.
Oh, so Trevor sensed that,
mic.
and so he's trying to help me as well? Okay. All right.
I don't know if you're living life right on
fair.
and off the mic.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so we got a busy show. We'll continue efforting other individuals out there because, as Lloyd told me earlier today, he's been told no more often than when he was in college. But I don't think you weren't denied a lot in college. I think you did just fine. So we got to translate that success rate over to the show.
I know. I'm trying. I don't strike out very often. I will say that, but today has been a day.
All right. Well, let's get to it. Time for your starting lineup.
We have.
Yeah, you getting hit like I'm here in South Jordan, and it's looking pretty good out here.
Yes, it is.
Are you still getting hammered?
Yeah,
up
it is
there?
like a blizzard out here in Salt Lake. Downtown.
I'm looking forward to driving to Logan. That'll be fun.
I wonder if our guy, because I saw that our guy John Canzano was going to make the trip to Logan. I feel like he's canceling his trip because he doesn't want to drive. He's not going to be driving in these weather conditions. Is he still making the trip?
I don't know. We were going to try to get him on today, but apparently he is boycotting the show.
He's dodging
for whatever
me
reason.
Right now.
So, yeah. I wanted to talk to John. There's a lot to talk to him about, but no. So far, we've struck out on him. He made the announcement earlier in the week on the old Twitter machine that he was coming to Logan, and but he's gone radio silent since. So maybe the snow did chase him off. All right, starting lineup: 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Scott Gerard, Lloyd Cole back in studio. We're at Tim Daly Nissan, Southtown. Come on by, hang out. But let's talk a little college hoops. BYU gets an opportunity to right the ship. And you're thinking, okay, well, they've won 2 in a row. Yeah, but the Baylor game was nice. You'll take that Baylor win. The one, though, that makes people a little concerned is that you had to go into overtime to beat Colorado at home in the Marriott Center. Now, Colorado, one of the worst-ranked teams in the Big 12 when it comes to your computer rankings, and Colorado had lots of opportunities to win that game. BYU got it to overtime and ended up getting the 90-86 victory. Now BYU welcomes in, I mean, you talk about this stretch of the schedule. They've got Arizona coming up on Wednesday, and then Arizona tonight in Tucson, and then they come back home to take on Iowa State. Then the schedule kind of loosens up a little bit. For the final, 3 games of the season. Central Florida, West Virginia, Cincinnati, those should all be wins for BYU. And then you wrap up the season against Texas Tech with Toppin injured. Interesting to see where Texas Tech is right now. But make no mistake, this BYU team, I'm not saying they need to beat Arizona tonight. You can't get ran out of the building tonight. This is a team that's there's little points of a season where you look at a squad and you say, are you willing to put your foot and draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to turn things around. And that doesn't necessarily mean a win. Look, I would love nothing more to see BYU go to Tucson and end up getting the W tonight. I would love to see BYU turn around, come back, and head back to Provo and beat Iowa State. Frankly, if you go if you split those games, you go 1-1 in that stretch, that's a W in my mind. But I was talking to a coach once who said, when they were in a losing streak, we just got to remove the black cloud from atop the building. And somehow with the losses, the 4 consecutive losses to Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Houston, the close win against Colorado, the injury to Richie Saunders, there's this black cloud hanging above the BYU basketball program. And frankly, a lot of it, too, is due to the fact of the high expectations set upon BYU. Look, you pay for that roster. You get in All-Americans. You get guys that are expected to be, number 1 or number 2 or number 3 overall draft picks, and you expect Elite Eights, you expect Final Fours, you expect deep runs into the NCAA tournament, you expect a high finish in the Big 12 regular season and in the Big 12 tournament. So when you lose 4 in a row and you lose 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6, and you lose one of your big 3 to an ACL injury, which I'm just gutted for that kid. Such a great representative for BYU, a guy that had been a big part of what Kevin Young has built over the last year and a half at BYU. That's a guy who had every opportunity to take off and go somewhere else, but decided, no, I want to stay put. I want to be part of this program. I want to be continuing the process here at BYU. And frankly, the sky's the limit on what he can do and what his potential is down the line. Unfortunately, this season is done for him. I mean, it's over, and probably his BYU career is over. So BYU's got to find a way to circle the wagons and say, how can we get back to that kind of swagger that you had when you were wrecking teams earlier in the season? And how do you find that? How do you channel that again? Well, if you're BYU, and I love the fact that Tim Lacombe mentioned this when he was on the program with us last year or last week. And this was before the Richie Saunders interview. This was in the middle of the 4-game losing skid. The one thing that really jumps out at you when you watch BYU, offensively, they're fine. Now, would you like them to be a little bit more diversified in what they do offensively? Sure. But you got Rob Wright, A.J. DeMonsa. You got guys that can absolutely take over a game. So let them do their thing. You're averaging a high point total at about 85, 86 points per game in Big 12 play. So offense isn't your issue. But if you go back and you look at the wins, even the wins for BYU, you beat Colorado in overtime. You give up 86 points. You beat Baylor by 5 and give up 94 points in that game. The Oklahoma State loss, you give up 99. You lose to Kansas, you give up 90. You lose to Arizona, you give up 86. So you go down the list, even Texas Tech, when you lose that game, you give up 84. Houston, who doesn't really score at all against anybody, they just grind you into submission with their defense. Even Houston pushed 80 and scored 77 points in that game, in that slow, methodical style of theirs. So when you take a deep breath and you look at where BYU is offense, you're fine. In fact, you look at the numerical ranking, BYU, the 8th ranked offensive team in all of college basketball. Where they struggle a bit, and even the number isn't bad. They're ranked 50th in the country in defensive rating, which takes into account points per possession, because honestly, when you play BYU in that high up-tempo style of basketball that they want to play, you're going to get extra possessions, which is going to boost your point total. So you want to be a little bit careful when you do look at points, but also you look at points per possession. They're still a little on the high side. And that's something that BYU's got to be more connected at. And the thing that Tim Lacombe said, and I go back to, is BYU needs to be more connected. And this is the struggle sometimes when you bring teams together and and again, everybody's dealing with it. I'm not singling out BYU. It's just when you turn over a high level of your roster and you bring in players that are extremely talented, but then you bring them together and say, all right, have chemistry. 1, 2, 3, go. It just doesn't always hit, and sometimes it takes some time. And you're thinking, okay, well, there's 6 games left on the season. How much time do you need? It may take even longer. Like, honestly, we're used to, my generation, Lloyd's generation, even the generation up until about 5 years ago, you were used to seeing a team recruit freshmen, have them sit, maybe redshirt them, and then slowly as a sophomore they get a little bit better. Then a junior year they may get into the starting lineup and they start producing. And then as a senior, then they end up being an all-conference guy and really taking over control of a team. You don't have that gradual progression anymore in dealing with a coach, knowing his system, knowing the ins and outs, and having a long learning curve. Right now, if you're A.J. DeMonsa, you're saying, okay, you know what? You are a freakishly talented player. You're going to be a top 2, top 3 pick in the NBA draft at worst, maybe number 1 overall. And so we have high expectations for you. You're going to come in, you're going to get the keys to the team, and you're going to go immediately. Ready, go. And this kid's a biscuit toss out of high school. Is it fair? Probably not. Does he deserve that? Yes, because, frankly, he's got that talent level where he should be able to absorb that, and he has. But then you're also asking that high level of a talent that you're giving him so much responsibility to also work with other members of a team. And sometimes you lose that level of connectivity. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with BYU. I'm just saying I've seen it. Look, I was part of I do the games for Utah State. I was part of that Danny Sprinkle team in covering them game in and game out where they didn't return a single point off the previous team, not a single bucket scored, and not a scholarship player was on that team from the previous year. And they came together and found a way to make it click. Now, that had more to do with the players and their personality and a lot of great leadership on that team that made that click. But sometimes you don't have that luxury. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for things to fall into place. And so in this era of basketball, you're going to bring together these super teams. BYU's as talented as anybody in the country from top to bottom, even without Richie Saunders on that roster. I firmly believe that. BYU is freakishly talented. They've got decent depth, not the depth that they would have liked, but they've got good depth, and they are still a very capable team of making a deep run into the NCAA tournament. Now, Richie Saunders, does that keep you from going from the, making it past Sweet 16 to the Elite 8? Maybe. He might be that difference that keeps you out of the Elite 8. But certainly this is a roster is currently constituted that's more than capable of being a Sweet 16 team. They just got to get connected. And they'll be fine. Like I've said this all along about BYU. They will be fine. Get them into the Big 12 tournament. Let them continue to play Kevin Young-style basketball. And then when you get into the NCAA tournament, if you're not a 6-7 seed, I think BYU, if you can hover in that 4 or 5 range, that gives you a first-round win. That gives you a toss-up in your next round to get to the Sweet 16. And then after that, it's just the cherry on top. And BYU's at a certain situation right now where they continue to show what they've got going to other recruits. You're seeing day in and day out. Here's another 5-star recruit on campus. Here's another 4-star recruit. And when you show that, number one, you're willing to spend the money, but two, you've got one of the best game day atmospheres in all of college basketball in that Marriott Center. And number three, you've also got a ability to showcase your team at a high level, and you've got already high-level recruits saying, I want to go there. That's going to bring the cavalry with other recruits. You just have to continue to produce wins. And if BYU can right the ship here, and again, they don't have to beat Arizona tonight, but you do need to have somewhat of a level of a moral victory in this game. You can't lose this game by 20. Then you really start to second-guess yourself and start to think, okay, what, is it broken? Which it's not. But even if you lose this game and it's a 2-possession game, BYU loses this game 84-78, 84-77, then you can take a lot away from that and say, okay, you know what? We were outmanned by this Arizona team. We were on the road. We had opportunities in the second half. Let's go home. Let's take on Iowa State, and let's get after it. And then if you beat Iowa State, you're golden because you'll reel off the next 3 wins up until that last game of the year when you take on Texas Tech. And if you're able to, get some confidence against Central Florida, West Virginia, Cincinnati, you'll be fine. You'll be a 5 seed at worst in the NCAA tournament, especially if you win a couple games in the Big 12 tournament. And I think Kevin Young can look back on this year as being a success. Now, we set the bar really high, a lot of us, and BYU themselves set the bar high by saying this is a team that could be an Elite 8 Final Four team. And with Richie Saunders healthy, they probably are that, or certainly are capable of doing that. Now, you lose one of your big 3, it's a little bit tough to see that come together. But also, you've got freakish talent remaining on that squad. You just got to find a way to get it dialed in. And Kevin Young will. BYU will. A.J. DeMonts is a good player. He's a good leader. He's been asked a lot of him as a true freshman, and by all accounts, he's risen to what's been asked. It's tough to say, hey, guess what? You're 18, 19 years old. This is your team. You're the face of this team. Take it over. That's a really hard ask for a kid that's that young to be able to take over and play at that high of a level. And so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I have no worries whatsoever about how BYU can finish this year. I think they're going to be all right. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I have not talked to our next guest about the Canada game, so I don't know where you're at on this. Jay Stevens, host of the Utah Puck Report and overall good dude, kind enough to join us, has been so kind in helping teach all of us about the game of hockey. Jay, how you doing, man?
I'm doing spectacular. So much good hockey today.
I know. So this is what I want to throw at you. There's a lot of people out there that were cheering for Chechnya because they wanted Canada out to make Team USA's route a little easier. I, on the other hand, I want nothing more than to see that USA-Canada matchup, all the marbles, let's go. So I was all about Canada winning that game. Where were you at watching the near upset?
I'm kind of split. I kind of turned on Czechia when they didn't play veggie at all.
Yeah.
But I did kind of like the clearer path idea, but I am excited to see, and I don't want to jinx anything. Hopefully, U.S. can win their game today, and then their semifinal game, and Canada wins their semifinal game, and we get this ultimate matchup. And I mean, that's what everybody wants. I think you want to see the two big giants going at it, and I don't know. It was so close. It was so much fun to watch that game. I was on the edge of my seat just hoping for it. And we've got another game going into overtime right now. It's just exciting hockey.
Who was outside of USA and Canada, who's been your biggest surprises in this tournament?
The biggest surprise really was Sweden for me. Sweden historically has been such a phenomenal team and has done so well in the Olympics. And to see them start right off with a loss to their bitter rivals in Finland. And nobody expected Finland to beat Sweden, especially with as stacked as Sweden looks on paper. So that was a big surprise to me. But really, that's it. Everything else is kind of laid out. I thought Germany might be a little better than they turned out to be. I was hoping to see Peterka kind of light up the scoreboard, but I just don't think he had the support that he needed. But, it's been a lot of fun. I think most of the games have been great. It's too bad we haven't really seen the U.S. be tested, because they're definitely going to be tested today.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. Is it just the fact that how they built this team, they've just put teams on defensive lockdown? What do you, outside of just the talent discrepancy, what do you credit this dominating play to?
Just the in-your-face North American style of hockey. And, Europe has caught up. Europe is being a lot more physical than they used to be. And it used to be the thing that U.S. and Canada would come in and just bully their way through games. And they might lose the games, but they were definitely going to give you, a physical beating. And then Europe kind of started getting a little more physical and upping their play that way. But I still think that's how the U.S. was built for this tournament, was to be physical. That's why they said they left off two prolific scorers in Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield that everybody thought should be on this team. But, they went out with a plan. They said they were going to build a physical, in-your-face team, and that's what they did. They do have, you're seeing the top six produce, and that's what they wanted. The thing is the slow starts. That's what scares me about the U.S. is the first period. It reminds me a lot of the second periods for the Utah Mammoth, where it's just like nothing's clicking. You're not seeing the chemistry. I think we started to see a little more chemistry in that last game, especially with the third line. Clayton Keller, Tage Thompson, they have chemistry from before. Clayton Keller obviously would have chemistry with the Kachuk brothers because he grew up playing with them. But you're starting to see now how good the U.S. could be, and hopefully all that chemistry is there today.
How cool was it to see Clayton Keller finally get on the ice?
Yeah, it was really good. Super frustrating to see him not play. As Utah fans, we all know how good he is and his vision. You just don't have a guy with that much vision and that passing ability. He is one of the best passers in the NHL. And you think, you want to see him feeding guys like Austin Matthews and Jake Gunsel and Tage Thompson, obviously. But just to see him on the sidelines was just frustrating. But then you look at the roster and you're like, well, it makes sense. This is a deep roster. This is the best U.S. team that's ever been built for the Olympics or for anything. I mean, so it just speaks volumes of that to see Keller get scratched.
Jay Stevens joining us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, host of the Utah Puck Report, and just does a great job helping us about this game. You talk about the passing ability of Clayton Keller. Is that something you're kind of born with, or can people develop into becoming an elite passer?
It's a little of both. I mean, you have to have a certain kind of peripheral vision that maybe not everybody has, and that's the thing that separates really good players from NHL players is just that X factor. I've seen a lot of people work a lot and get better and better and better at being a passer, but what you've got in Clayton Keller is a guy that, one, has the vision, and two, has this just incredible drive. You talk to him and you just realize that his whole life, his whole focus in life is to be better at hockey, and he puts everything in his life towards that. So he had it naturally, and then he honed it as just a guy that works his butt off every day to get better at his craft.
So you got Peterka's on his way home to Utah. Veggie's on his way. I know they got on the ice a little bit yesterday. We talked to Bill Armstrong. Did they get thrown to the fire immediately, or is there a little bit of a decompression time for these guys, or is it just like, hey, let's get back at it?
I think it's going to be left up to the player. I think a lot of times it seems like Bill and obviously Coach Bear let these guys kind of figure out where they're at workload-wise. I think Veggie's going to want to jump right back in the pipes and start taking shots, and I think he's going to be frustrated and feels like he's got something to prove. So I expect to see him get back on the ice. I wouldn't be surprised to see JJ take maybe an extra day after he gets home before he skates again. But that being said, I've watched Peterka stay on the ice 40 minutes after everybody else to work on one shot for 40 extra minutes because he knew he needed that shot on the power play. So he's another just super driven guy. So I think the coaching staff leaves it up to the guys, and I think Peterka takes one more day.
All right, so let's I know that these two teams still have, USA has their quarterfinal, and then their two teams will have their semifinal. But let's just look ahead. Let's peek ahead, Jay, and pretend that these two teams are playing for a gold medal. With what you've seen in the previous games in the Olympics, how do you think that one plays out?
It's such a scary game for U.S. Canada is so deep. Even losing Sidney Crosby today, I don't think, one of the greatest players in the history of the world or the history of hockey, and Canada just seems to be able to replace him. That's how deep Canada is right now. So I think this would be another just barnyard brawl of a hockey game where it comes down to the final couple minutes of the game. That's how I see it. I see these teams just a real physical matchup. Then you start looking at goaltending, and you've got two goaltenders that are proven goaltenders, but then that have also got some knocks against them. Like, Hellebuck has been a phenomenal goaltender, but he just hasn't been able to win the Stanley Cup, and he hasn't been able to do great in the playoffs. I blame the team more than I blame Hellebuck, but most of the critics put a lot of that on Hellebuck. And then in Jordan Bennington, you've got a guy that had a phenomenal season, and after he told, the Utah Mammoth GM now, but the St. Louis Blues GM at the time said, hey, either trade me or pull me up to the NHL, but you're not sending me to the minors. And then he came out to win the Stanley Cup, and he's been decent, but he gets thrown off his game. I shouldn't say he's been decent. He's been phenomenal, but he gets thrown off his game. So if you match everything else up, it comes down to those two goaltenders and what they're going to be like in a high-pressure game like that. Bennington's got the edge, I think, on Hellebuck because he has a Stanley Cup, because he has that Four Nations win against Hellebuck. So that's what scares me a little bit, but I think they tweaked Team USA based on what happened in the Four Nations tournament and added a guy like Keller, and added a little bit of more scoring touch to beat the goaltending. So I think it just comes one of those long, drawn-out games that everybody's going to be on the edge of their seat, and hopefully it lives up to the billing of what everybody wants to see.
Is it safe to say this Team USA, that roster was built specifically with Canada in mind?
Yeah, 100%. I think they looked at, they won the first game in the Four Nations, then they lost the second game. I think they made some tweaks. I think the focus was Team Canada. I think Team Canada coming in was a gold medal favorite, and USA barely behind that. And I think when Bill Guerin was looking at what he was going to do, he's like, this is where we made a mistake. This is the extra player, or this is the extra little seasoning that we needed to beat Canada in that Four Nations championship, and that's what they geared this whole team towards.
Talked to Bill Armstrong yesterday about how it's going to be trying to work Logan Cooley back into the lineup, and he said, coming out of this long Olympic break could be very beneficial for us because everybody's trying to figure themselves out and get back into a groove after a 3.5, 4 week layoff. Do you think that can be advantageous when you're trying to integrate stars back into the lineup with him and Kerfoot?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's funny. I hear other people talk about, where are they going to fit him in? Everything's been going so well. And, what are you going to do about it? Well, the truth of the matter is you've got one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to put him right back where he belongs, which I think is line 2 center. And you get Kerfoot in there, and then everybody else is fighting for scraps. And this layoff is exactly what we needed. Everybody's going to come back in. They're going to get on the ice together. They're going to get a couple days of practice. It's going to feel brand new for everybody. And it couldn't have worked out better having one of your top players come off injury. And we've got 2 of them, right, with Kerf coming back too. So I think this plays in the Utah Mammoth's favor. They're going to go up against Colorado first, which is, they're getting players back too, but all those players are going to be a little bit more worn out because they've taken more of an active role in the Olympics.
Well, and also, too, I actually think starting with Colorado, you mentioned why that could be advantageous with them in a little bit of flux, but also there's no room to say, okay, we're gradually going to get back into this thing. You're playing the big dog right out of the gate. That means your focus level's got to be at an all-time high because you want to make a statement after all the success you had going into that break that you're keeping it rolling. So I got to imagine knowing that you're playing Colorado as that first game is got to have guys juiced up and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Utah keeps getting better and better and better, and they're realizing that they could be really a playoff team now. So you got to prove it, right? You got to prove it against the big dog. If the playoffs started right now, Utah would go up against Vegas, but that could very easily be Colorado with another win or a loss here or there. So you've got to know that this is the bar you're going to hold yourself to, and how do you match up line by line, goaltender to goaltender, and you're going to find out right out of the gate again.
What's your realistic point total Utah needs to shoot for to make sure that they're where they need to be come playoff time?
It's got to be that 95 points.
95.
That's 95, 96 points. That's been the mark for a long time. That's what everybody says. No problem shooting for 100, but let's keep it real. 95 points is what you're going to need to, in theory, right? That's the plateau right there.
Well, we appreciate it, Jay. Always good catching up with you, man. And let's do it again here soon. Hopefully, we're going to be talking about a gold medal game between the United States and Canada.
Yeah, let's hope. I'm nervous. I'm going to be watching with anticipation. I can't wait to be back in the studio talking about gold medal games.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Jay Stevens, you hear him on the Utah Puck Report on KSLSports.com. Breaks down the game better than anybody else, and we appreciate him being a big part of the show. All right. Coming up next, what you may have missed. Also, we look ahead. Coming up at 1:05, the great David James will join the program. He's got Jazz to break down the tank gate going on in the NBA with Adam Silver bending a knee because the world of gamblers are upset. So let's take it out on the Utah Jazz. We'll talk about that coming up at 1:05 with David James. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The great David James, kind enough to hang out with us on a snowy Wednesday afternoon. DJ, how are you?
I'm good, but whenever someone says the great David James, I just assume I'm old.
Oh, that's not true.
Nobody ever says that for the 35-year-old.
Okay, what do you take more offense with, the great David James or the legend David James?
They both mean the same thing. That guy's old.
They both mean the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's a push. It's a toss-up.
All right, so let me restart this. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Up-and-comer David James, kind enough to join us.
My best days are in front of me. He's a slow learner, but he's going to get there.
Hey, how what can BYU consider a success tonight against Arizona? Like, what can a BYU fan see tonight, even if it's a loss, that they're like, okay, you know what, we're going to be all right?
Well, priority one is shock the world. Priority two, it's going to be on ESPN. A lot of people are going to see it. I think a lot of the people, if you're on the basketball selection committee, you've done this. You actually told me. I'm now telling you stuff that you've told me. And Chris Hill told me from when he was on the committee. is that, people are responsible for 2 or 3 regional leagues, or they'll more likely have more info. Nonetheless, people do tend to watch big games. It's the nature of big games. This one's on ESPN for a reason. So I think they need to leave the selection committee with the impression, yeah, they lost Saunders, but that's still a really good basketball team. They need to pass the eyeball test into Houston and Tucson, and they can't go in thinking that. Priority one has to be thinking win the game. If you go out there thinking anything other than that, you're just going to trip yourself up. You're too far inside your head. You're overthinking it. You're going to mess it up. But, Brian Santiago, who isn't going to play in this game because he's out of eligibility, even by the NCAA's new relaxed standards.
Yeah.
If Brian was there and he was thinking, man, I just want the selection committee to walk away thinking we're still a good basketball team. If they go down there and lose a 1 or 2 possession game, like the game, it's like, okay, Arizona's better and they should be seeded a lot better. But this is still a very talented team that can win games in March. And I think if the selection committee looks at you and thinks, hey, they can win games in March, that's going to help you big time, obviously, when it comes to seeding. And I think the goal now is, can BYU get to the Sweet 16? And they need to stay out of the 8, 9, 7, 10 games, because now you're playing a 1 or a 2 seed. You just don't need to run into Arizona, Michigan, Houston, Duke, UConn, that batch of teams in the second round. You just don't need to do that. So I think that's it. That's the eyeball test. If they go there and they're down 15 at halftime and they lose by 21, that just gives people on the selection committee making tough choices the opportunity to say, oh, no, not these guys. Yeah, Arizona, holy cow,
When you look at this team, and obviously we need to take some time to see what they look like without Richie, but honestly, offense hasn't been much of an issue. Defensively, giving up point totals in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And I know those numbers are going to be inflated just because there's extra possessions, which is how BYU plays. But still, that defense is what's been the big issue here.
We were just talking about this morning, wherever you get your podcast. Listen to Tim Lacombe on this, because it used to be you had to hold a team under 70 and then you won, right? That's what it was when Rick Majerus had it rolling at the U. That's what it was when Steve Cleveland had it rolling at BYU. That's what it was when Stu Morrill had it rolling at Utah State. More threes, faster pace of play. The game has been sped up. The shot clock over time has been shortened. So some of the increase in scoring is there. But I had a former college coach say, yeah, but most of the scoring is because kids can transfer every year, and coaches know they can't just I can't say exactly what this coach said. You got to really bleep and get into them. You got to, and then he dropped a really special combination that would have Lloyd jumping on top of the dump button. He said, what do you think Stu Morrill's practice was like at Utah State? What do you think Rick Majerus' practice was like at Utah? How do you think Roger Reed talked to his guys about defense at BYU? What do you think Dick Hunsaker was like at UVU? Hunsaker coached for Majerus, right? So it wasn't going to be exactly the same because there's only one Rick Majerus. But Hunsaker was going to be, he's going to demand defense loudly. And kids don't want to hear that for 4 months. They'll just pick up and transfer. There's too many temptations anyway. And so I think a lot of teams have gotten away from defense. Somehow Houston still plays like it's, 2010. They do. Somehow. But most teams don't. And I think BYU is right in that trend. I think we're seeing, whether it's the Utes, the Cougars, the Aggies, we're seeing a lot of games that are much more higher scoring. And I think if there's a silver lining, now they're losing Richie Saunders, who's, he's a pretty good defender and made plays, and partly because he had to. That's how he's going to get the ball when you're the third option, make the steal, go down, and get the layup, right? But I do think that all these guys fighting for time are going to come in with a ton of attitude. And they're not going to play big minutes. I don't know that. I expect they're not going to play big minutes. I expect that the time's going to be split up kind of the way it was in Colorado. And guys are going to be playing 15, 20 minutes until they sort out that somebody's better than somebody else. And so I think these guys are going to be really driven. So in 2 of the positions, there are going to be guys fighting for playing time who are going to go really hard. And in the brief moments that AJ subbed out and that Davis is subbed out and that Wright is subbed out, in those brief moments, whoever's in for them, I think will be really going hard. And the other 3 guys, it's a little tough because you're going to be asking to carry the offensive load, and you're going to ask them to play 35 minutes or more. So you got to be a little realistic. I mean, you can scream for the good old days all you want, but how realistic is that? I need you to score 35 points and play 35 minutes. And by the way, really gut it out over there at the defensive end of the floor. seems like a big ask. But I think their defense might be a little better with some fresh faces in the lineup who are fighting for playing time.
So, and I want to be careful. I'm not by any means going after him, but and a lot of it's just the era in which we live in college basketball. But I'm looking at the last 3 games of Rob Wright. Houston, he plays 36 minutes and has 1 assist. Baylor, he plays 40 minutes and has 3 assists. Colorado, he plays 40 minutes and has 3 assists. So essentially he's got, nearly 120 minutes of basketball and has got 7 total assists. Is that, I mean, do you need to get a little bit more out of him as a point guard and not as a scorer? Or with Richie out, you just need that scoring any way you can get it?
That is an excellent question. I think that they are having DeBonsa initiate the offense more and more. I like that concept, not just as a concept, but I like the way it's literally played out because they are, whether they're cheating towards him in the zone, whether they're flat out trying to trap him, whether the help defender is jumping, thinking I can leave this guy over here, but we can't let DeBonsa beat us because that's what coach has been preaching for the last 3 days. AJ is such a focus that it feels like just as he crosses half court, he starts to pull the defense out of shape. And so Wright's now getting the ball in a position where it's going to be easier for him to break down a defense and score. So I'm okay with the shots going up. And now to your point, he still has to have his eyes open for, like, when can I throw Kate a lob? When is Davis open for a 3 with his feet set? And now that these guys are only playing 15 minutes, when do I get them an easy bucket? Because he could probably throw his body in there and contort himself and loft the ball up over a shot blocker high off the glass and get it to go. We've seen that happen, but we've also seen the shots get blocked. So if you have some guy who's new to the rotation and you have a chance to get him a bucket, do it. I don't care if you throw it ahead a little on a break when you think you can beat the one defender in a 2-on-1, or when you're driving to the hoop. I think he needs to look for that to get these guys who are going to either A, be playing when they haven't been, or B, going to play real minutes when they've been playing like 5, and now they're going to get 15 or 20. Get them some easy buckets. So it's almost I'd like to sit next to you possession by possession, Scotty, and go, I'm glad he went there. I'm like, oh, he needed to pass there. You know, I think it's really a case-by-case basis. I think to your point, 7 in 120 minutes, yeah, he could probably use a little more. Now he's been on fire, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at that call.
If you're going to go 13 of 20 or 14 of 20 in a game, whatever he's done in these big games, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's like, hey, don't take the ball out of the hand. The guy who's got it going and shooting 70%. But with 6 games going in the regular season, he's not going to shoot 70% 6 nights in a row. Or if he does, his draft stock goes way up, or his NIL number goes way up. BYU goes 4-2, 5-1, maybe 6-0. But I mean, he's on a tear. That's great. But you can't sustain this, and you need to get the other guys some easy hoops. But yeah, if those two start passing, I mean, that is what the defense wants. So they're gonna get a lot of FGAs. They need to.
Utah State in action tonight. If I can hopefully get up there and call a game tonight. Utah State and Boise State, the Broncos coming in, and Boise blew that big lead against UNLV the other day, and they're hurting. They're in a bad spot, but when these two teams play, weird things happen. So I fully anticipate we'll have a 1-2 possession game going down the stretch in this one. But you and I talked on the Ultimate Aggie podcast about where Utah State
like
is.
A true professional. You
By the way,
lead with that. You just eased it right in there. Good work.
That's available for you at KSLSports.com or search Ultimate Aggie Podcast on your podcasting platform of choice. All right, so you and I spent a lot of time talking about is it okay to run up the score, which Utah State did against Memphis. Jared Calhoun afterwards said, I'm not going to apologize for it. That's the way we are living now in college basketball, where every possession matters, and when we're dealing with metrics. I had Ken Pomeroy on yesterday, and I asked him essentially the same thing. I said, did Jared Calhoun do the right thing? And Ken's like, absolutely, yes, he did. He needs to do it. I'm not sure if those 4 points get you an extra spot in the seating, but I'm not saying they won't. So, yeah, pour it on.
Well, if Ken Pomeroy said that, then we have to go back and underline what Jared Calhoun said. It's a broken system. Because I think for the vast majority of us who played at any level, there is no difference in losing between 18 and 24 points. Once that thing gets over double digits, you're pretty much beaten. Now at the 3-point shot, okay, once it's over 15, you're pretty much beaten. Like, they were beaten. They were just beaten. I don't hold these standards to these guys to the same standards as pros. There were 3 dunks in the final minute. I think the third one was clearly the most egregious because you literally could dribble out the clock on 22. So, but hey, if that's the system, then you better play by the rules of the system. But it's like that really legitimately doesn't tell me anything. If you tell me, it's back to what you asked at the top about BYU and Arizona. If you tell me BYU plays Arizona right to the end and Arizona hits a shot or BYU misses a shot, if DeBonta goes for 40 and keeps them in the game and then has some 20-footer go back as they're in front of the rim and then out, that tells me one thing about BYU. If they lose by 12, it tells me a different thing. But if they lose by 20 or 30, I don't care. At that point, you're blown out. So I don't get why that would be valuable in a system, and that doesn't make sense to me.
What do we got to do to bring Grand Canyon back down to earth? Because I'm not liking them puffing their chest outs with wins against Utah State and then the Aztecs last night.
You have to beat them, period. End of story. Furthermore, if I were on this Aggie team, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I know.
I would still be mad about cell phones on a piece of paper produced by the school, put on chairs. Come on, man. I mean, I can sit here and talk about and argue about whether the last 3 dunks or 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3. We could argue about that all day long. You can't argue about cell phone numbers on a chair. We all know that's wrong. You don't put a 20-year-old cell phone out for 8,000 people to harass them. What are you doing? What are you doing? That should irritate everybody. It's a team that can already defend and can already run. And the crowd was crazy. The spectrum needs to be crazy, and Utah State needs to put it on them. And now that we know, I mean, once Ken Palm has spoken,
it's gospel.
Beat him by 30.
Yeah.
I mean, don't just beat him, humiliate him. And then I wouldn't even coach to coach. I wouldn't even say anything. But AD to AD, I'd go, by the way, that piece of paper was total BS. Thanks for never freaking apologizing, you losers. No, you can't burn bridges in college athletics. You two could end up 10 schools down the line. Don't do it. But man, that was clearly across the line. Like, you can't do a whole segment on that. There's nothing to say. You shouldn't have done that, Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only thing you can do is beat them. And the only thing you can do beyond that is then beat them bad. I don't know what else there is.
I was kind of counting on San Diego State getting the win against them and then setting up for a fun one coming up next week with Utah State and San Diego State for the top spot on the line.
I did see a thing on social media that the Grand Canyon beating San Diego State, that there is a window where Utah State just wins out, and this is a one-bid league.
Yeah.
And they were like, that will be hilarious given the Mountain West Pac-12 split coming up. I said, except Grand Canyon just cost himself money and didn't cost San Diego State much money. Yeah. Now, San Diego State wants to go to the tournament, and Dutcher's, coming to the end of a great career, and he wants to go to the tournament, and, but Grand Canyon is the one who won't be cashing checks for the next 6 years. But, I mean, what can you do? You got to go win the game. You can't be out there throwing games so you can make money in 4 years. That's stupid, so whatever.
All right. By the way, David James, hear him every morning, 6 to 10, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yes.
I should say, though, although if you were tanking at the NBA level, that would be different.
That's where I was transitioning to right now.
I would totally, except the fact that the commissioner may, fine you back to the Stone Age. I would suggest that those 6-7 teams that are tanking just keep tanking.
So I have a theory as to, I had a theory last week. Now it's starting to become public knowledge of why the commissioner was a little grumpy and threw a $500,000 fine at the Jazz when teams have been doing this forever. It's that the Jazz did it differently than everybody else and pulled guys in the fourth quarter. That messes with prop bets, and that makes a couple of online companies very, very grumpy that might be spending a lot of money with the NBA.
Right, and whether they spend money directly with the NBA or whether they spend money with the broadcast so that the broadcast can pay higher rights fees is a very fine distinction that isn't worth the time of arguing over, because the commissioner knows exactly how the money pipeline works.
Yep.
So, that's a distinction we don't need to spend any time on. I can totally see them voicing their concerns, and I can see how they set a line based on what they think, whereas there's a small select group of fans, in this case Jazz fans, who realize guys aren't going to play in the fourth quarter long before the rest of the country is onto it because they're just not paying that close attention. And honestly, I don't even think the commissioner is paying that close attention to the tanking, because if he were, he would have just gone ahead and find Sacramento and he would have found Washington at the same time. It's clearly obvious what they're doing, but commissioners have known for 40 years that NBA teams are tanking, going back to when Hakeem Olajuwon was at Houston, right? So, yeah, it was something specific. And to me, it's that, and it's Sam Presti and Oklahoma City want the pick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're complaining. And those two things, two companies and that team burning up his phone lines, and he just had enough of it. And as Locke said, he knew he had to do a press conference and his address. It's a serious issue. Yeah, for 40 years while the league has blossomed. That's just an issue. Tanking didn't just start, and it hasn't ruined the NBA. In 40 years, the league has grown by leaps and bounds. And that's because I think Mark Cuban got it right.
Yeah.
And he tied it into something I've always believed. Pro sports sells hope. There are really good football and baseball and basketball teams that come and go, and hockey too, that come and go, and they don't win it all. And we still revere them. It was a lot of good times, a lot of playoff wins. They didn't get to hoist the trophy. It's the Jazz here. It's the Bills 4 in a row. The Broncos now have multiple Super Bowls. But there was a time when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl and lost and never won it. But they were wildly popular. They were wildly popular for 20 years before they won a Super Bowl, 25 years before they won a Super Bowl. You don't have to win it all. They're selling hope. And the lottery and the thought that we could get one of the top 5 players in the NBA, that's the hope. I mean, I think the Jazz have gotten a lot of good players, and I don't see a top 5 player in the NBA on the roster. Maybe one of the young guys grows into that. Maybe Bailey grows into it. Keontae's already taken a leap that a lot of us did not expect. Maybe he'll take another leap a lot of us don't expect. I think Bailey has more of the size, so I think him, and maybe somebody they get here, and maybe they trade one or two of these guys to get that guy in another year or 2 or 3. I mean, who's to say? They've done a good job rebuilding, but you really need that hope of having one of the top 5 players in the NBA if you're going to win a championship.
Well, and honestly, too, there's now an end date to the tanking because of the Jaren Jackson trade. So you know that there's an expiration date here, and it will be wherever that last game of the season ends. And so if you're able to parlay a top 3 pick with Jaren Jackson, hey, we're not tanking anymore. It's worked, and the Jazz are off.
The tanking is all done, and the only question is when they go off, how much powder are they going to have in the saddlebags, I guess, how much firepower, how many good players are they going to have, how many top 150 players do you have, because that's what you need in rotation, how many top 50 players do you have, because those guys are all going to be in your starting lineup, and then how many top 5, 10, or 20 players do you have, And so, the thought that they could get one of those guys, and the thing is that this draft, again, is supposed to be so good. Yes, you want one of the top 3 picks, but now people are like, the 4th and 5th players look like they're going to be really good. So, who's to say? But hold on to the pick. You can't get one of the top players if you have to give the pick away.
The one Olympic event that you normally don't care about, but you enjoy more than you probably should in the Olympics?
I've never watched less Olympics in my life. I grew up in a massive Olympic family. But we have to watch so much sports. Like tonight, people will be watching Olympics. It's getting late, and I'm like, I don't have time to watch tonight. I got to watch BYU, Utah, and Utah State, 3 games in the course of 4 hours. So I don't watch that much. I mean, it's the men's hockey 1, women's hockey 2. I would tell you that I like the short track, and now that the long track has gotten into it, the original speed skating, when they put multiple people on the ice. When the long track, they've got one event now where it's the, what do they call it? It's not the combined stars. It's something like group stars. I can't remember. I got the lingo wrong. But they say when they put them all on the ice together, because then it's like watching a track meet.
Yeah.
Well, I watch track, So I would say that's the thing of the things that I never watch. I only watch in the Olympics. It's that. I mean, hockey isn't that far out of the, mainstream. As a matter of fact, USA-Sweden, 9 minutes ago, first period, still scoreless, quarterfinals. It's on right now. But there's no college basketball I have to watch right now.
Yeah.
So, come on.
Yeah, I kind of like that speed skating with a lot of people out there because, you're a kid in the 80s when you'd have that Saturday night roller derby league on, and people were just wrecking people. Like, it's got a little bit of feel of that.
The only problem with roller derby is that people thought it had to be tricked up and pro wrestling to be entertaining. I think if you just found a bunch of guys who played college football or even high school football, played college football, and were really good athletes, but they weren't good enough to play in the NBA, and then you just put that and you put prize money out there, and those were the rules, I think that'd be entertaining. It's got speed, it's got contact, and it has some teamwork. Like, doesn't that sound like something people would watch?
I watched it, even with the wrestling angle to it. See,
yeah. There's only a bazillion arenas with dates to fill. Like, yeah. I don't know if you need 5, 10, or 15,000 or what you're going to draw, but those arenas are all over the country.
Things you didn't think you'd talk about today. Roller derby had to be on that bingo board list.
I didn't know we were going to go to speed skating either.
Yeah. There you go.
Up there, this year there's been one short track race and one moguls freestyle where the winner crossed the finish line backwards.
Yeah, I saw
that. And
I
didn't watch either one of those things live, but I saw them on social. I saw the clips on social media. That's amazing. Yeah. That's why we watch sports, to watch super talented athletes do things we can't do. Number one, I can't ski down that hill with no moguls, let alone with moguls. Off the jumps, but then to catch an edge and be spun around, but have the balance and the body control to stay on my skis and cross line backwards and still win, epic. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Now, I don't want to sit around and watch all night to see 30 seconds, but yeah, there you go.
Appreciate it, DJ. You're the best.
Okay, I'll talk to you. See ya.
There he is. The great David James, the legend David James, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Wednesday, everybody. All right. We haven't had a chance to really break this down, and I know Jake and Ben spent some time at the end of the show talking about it, but Mick Cronin, who's a bit of a bully, and he's kind of a weird dude. Like, I've talked to a lot of coaches that know him, and they swear that he's a normal, well-grounded person outside of coaching. But when he gets into a gym and he gets onto a court, something weird happens with him. Now, look, I've never met Mick Cronin. Don't know much about him outside of a little bit of working with UCLA last year in the NCAA tournament. So I don't know much about Mick, but I do know that he does get sideways with reporters. His team just got shellacked at Michigan and then last night against Michigan State, and took his frustrations out on a reporter last night after the game.
What was your thoughts in the student section chanting Booker's name?
I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section.
I just meant the overall the way that you
I would like to give you kudos for the worst question I've ever been asked.
Did you like
you should take it.
The preparation of
Do you really think I care about the other team's student
I don't think you care about the other
Are you raising your voice at me?
No, I'm just
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Come on, dude.
No reason.
Come on. Yes, you are. Everybody's standing here listening to you. Everybody. This is on camera. They can hear you. I answered the question. I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section. I coach UCLA. I don't care about Michigan State students. I mean, who cares?
Okay, first off, that's a level 1 rule in trolling somebody. You see that all the time online. So somebody will let's just say, for example, because I'll get sucked into it. Like people have called me all kinds of stuff on Twitter, and 98% of the time it doesn't bother me. The 2% is when they kind of misquote you and they say, "Hey, Scott said this earlier today." I'm like, I never really said that. And so you fire back at somebody like, "Hey, bro, that's not what I said. I said this." And then they respond like, "Hey, I must have got under your skin. I'm really sorry. I didn't know you'd react so violently." And you're like, "No, I'm just trying to set things straight." The kid was not raising his voice. But Mick Cronin's like, "Hey, man, why are you raising your voice at me?" Like, okay, yeah, you're being a jackass, number one. That's what it all boils down to, is you can't claim somebody's raising their voice when you just called them out specifically, and then you said, "Oh, and by the way, congratulations on asking me the worst question I've ever been asked." Okay, calm it down, big fella. Your team stinks. You just got wrecked in the state of Michigan, back-to-back games. I understand. You're salty. All right, don't take it out on this dude. This dude's just doing his job. And he had a individual player who was getting called out by the student section, and he didn't react well to it. I think that's a fair question to ask. Hey, did the student section chanting this guy's name get under his skin? Did it cause his lack of performance? Were there other issues involved? How about you as a coach? Did that bother you to see an individual player get singled out by a fan base? How much of a problem was that? Those are all fair questions. All fair questions to ask. But to pull the, hey, you're being, it's a dumb question. You're a dumb question. The guy's like, I don't think it was a dumb, hey, don't raise your voice at me. Come on. It's just silly. All right. You can say, I don't give a rat's ass. Totally fine. That's,
You really think I care about the other team?
No, I don't think you care about the other
team.
team.
Are you raising your voice at me?
No, I'm just.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
What a bully.
Just a complete and total bully.
Mick Cronin's got a little bit of a Napoleon complex. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. You said, hey, easy there, big fella. Mick Cronin is anything but a big fella.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Did you know Coach Lacombe called him Lord Farquaad today?
Oh, wow.
DJ and BK.
Wow.
It was so good. Yeah, he has a little bit of a complex. I mean, to be a jerk like that to a student reporter, I mean, we all remember, and I know you, if you were listening to Jake and Ben, they played the Gordon Monson, the thing with
Jim Boylan.
Jim Boylan.
Yeah.
With Jim Boylan, where he went at a student reporter, and Gordon defended the student reporter because and then called Gordon classless. Don't come up once up here every 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Jim Boylan was a weird dude, man. People forget about the Jim Boylan era, and I know a lot of people try to forget about the Jim Boylan era, but that was a strange time. And yes, Jim Boylan. So here's the other element to this story that people don't know about the Gordon Monson Jim Boylan confrontation is that yes, Jim Boylan fired off at Gordon. Gordon fired back at him, and then ultimately Jim Boylan realized you don't pick a fight with somebody who buys ink by the barrel, and so I got to make this right. Cooler heads prevailed. Jim Boylan then invites Gordon Monson to breakfast to try to mend the fences. And then Jim Boylan, Gordon Monson, they sit down, they have a nice meal, and then Jim Boylan stiffs Gordon and sticks him with the bill and says, oh, I forgot my wallet. Can you pick it up? Which I don't have a problem with that because that's a classic Gordon Monson move is to – say, I left my wallet in my Mercedes, in my Porsche, and can you go ahead and pick this up? You can expense this, right? Yeah. So if you don't know, this is the back and forth with Gordon and Jim Boylan back in the day.
Coach, you started that second half missing your first 12 shots. Explain how you were feeling during that run.
That's how I was feeling. How am I supposed to answer that? How would you be feeling? Huh?
What was the reason for the offensive inefficiency, Jim?
Ball didn't go in the hoop.
Why not?
Ball didn't go in the hoop.
Were you happy with the schemes?
Next question.
Coach,
Don't come here once every 2 years and ask those questions. I don't want to hear that from you.
I can ask the question.
Good. Ask. I'm not answering it. Don't come here once every 2 years. I don't want to hear that from you.
Break.
Yeah. I see you to show up.
Oh, boy. Yeah, look, if you want to be salty, that's fine. You want to be upset, that's fine. If you want to say no comment, totally fine. And even if you want to fire back a little bit, because here's the thing. I've asked dumb questions countless times. Frankly, not a day goes by. I don't do an interview that I ask a question like, eh. But here's the thing. You got to ask. You got to get the soundbite, right? Your team missed 12 shots in a row. All right? Your team just got embarrassed in Michigan. You lost by a ton at Michigan State. So there's certain things you've got to ask because you got to get the response. So in that case, kid's like, hey, you missed 12 shots in a row. Like, what's going through your mind when you see that? You don't really care about what he's going to say. You just know you need some kind of response from a coach saying and acknowledging the fact that you did miss 12 shots in a row and why that happened and what can be done to resolve that issue. And so, yeah, you got to ask it. Now, how you ask it, that can be up to interpretation of whether it's a dumb question or not. But as a guy that asks dumb questions all the time, you know you need to get from point A to point B, and sometimes it's not the most clear-cut way in which you get there. So a lot of coaches have class, and they understand he's doing his job. I'm doing my job. Let's just get through this. I can't imagine how many times, whether Tim Duryea, Danny Sprinkle, Craig Smith, Ryan Odom, now Jared Calhoun, have looked at me across a post-game interview and been like, this Jack-A, why are you asking me that? I don't want to answer that. But all of them have been super professional and been like, okay, yeah, we get it. We'll figure out a way to get through this. There was a time where Lloyd, Utah State was playing Boise State. In Boise. Now, it's somewhat ironic because Utah State's playing Boise State tonight. This was in 2020. It's right before COVID shut everything down. Utah State had that team with Sam Merrill and Miesh Keita. They're in Boise. They're leading Boise by 18 points with about 3.5 minutes left. And they go through one of the worst collapses I've ever seen on a court. Boise State comes roaring back. In fact, Boise State had pulled all their starters, and it's their second string that starts hitting threes. Utah State starts turning it over, sends the game into overtime with a bucket at the buzzer to send it to OT. Utah State loses to Boise State in overtime. Crazy, horrific loss. Craig Smith, the coach of the team, and I'm going to get Craig on one of these days to kind of fill in on the show, and I'm going to ask him about this because Craig bailed me out big time. I had just seen one of the worst collapses in history, in college basketball history. And Craig comes up to the mic, and I start like, all right, Craig Smith joining us. And I look at Craig, and I go blank. Like, I don't know what to even ask him. Like, I'm like, and he just goes, I got it. And then just completely just talks about the game. But I never asked a question because I didn't even know how to ask. What do you say to a coach that just went through something like that? And he realized, okay, I get it. It was a monstrous debacle. I'll find a way to figure out this thing. You're obviously not on your game. We weren't on our game, so let's get through this together. One of the coolest things I've ever been a part of because I completely dropped the ball. It's okay for a coach to be a decent human being, even when you're going through a nasty stretch. Mick Cronin, he's just a jackass. It's just, all right, you're upset? All right, I'm going to take it out on some student reporter. He didn't deserve that. He's trying to figure things out, just like you're trying to figure out how to coach in the state of Michigan. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, we continue to get you ready for another big day of college hoops. Trevor Reilly. Yes, Trevor was supposed to join us just now. He's going to join us coming up at 2:05. It's all right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, kicking off your 2 o'clock hour. All right, every day Lloyd and I, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that get texts from Trevor Reilly, just to kind of check in on everybody's, religious enthusiasm. And by the way, Trevor, Lloyd appreciates them, and he's coming a little closer to the big man upstairs, thanks to you.
Well, we're all trying, ain't we? Appreciate you, Lloyd, for being a holy man.
Always, Trev. Always.
You're gonna get him in that font. You know what's gonna happen someday.
I tell you, I ain't recruiting nobody. Lloyd's recruiting. Lloyd works for the church, for heaven's sakes. He knows what's up. He's been investigating for a decade. We're ready for him, waiting on him. He's all right. He'll be there.
Yeah, we'll get you there. Hey, how you doing? Everything good in your life?
I'm fantastic. I'm about ready to take a personal trainer job here in Waimea, Hawaii. Moved out here with the wife, and I've been hanging out with Robert Blecken the last couple of days and a couple coaches from the Islanders, Brian Blecken and Senny. We ran a football camp out here on the Big Island with Kai Po. We had Kai Po there representing the Cava Lounge downtown, and we've been good. We had about 40 kids, so life's good. We're training kids, and I'm living in Hawaii. I can't complain. My daughter's playing pretty good basketball too. She's got state playoffs coming up in California. Scotty, you got your own show. I think life's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I can't complain. We're treated well. Hey, I had a chance to chat with Morgan last week, and it seems like he's in a good place. It seems like now that the dust is cleared a little bit, he can really focus in on building this team. Now that you've seen the dust clear a little bit, and Morgan's got his staff, how do you like that staff, and how much do you think that team it suffers the loss of Witt next year? Do they just keep it rolling like it's been over the last decade?
I think the most important position group we need to look at is the offensive line and the defensive line going through next season. Losing Jim Harding, as we all know around here, was a big deal. Probably the best offensive line coach in the country. He's been courted the NFL multiple times. He's going back home and away, right? He's from Ohio. That position group, right, they did a good job putting Jordan in there, and obviously he brought a big recruit with him. But he hired a guy, I'm getting to the point about the staff, named Mr. Gerke.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Gerke was there a long time ago, and you want to talk about, he's like a secret weapon. He knows the secret sauce to winning. He's helping out that offensive line with Coach Gross. And then we got the defensive line group, okay? They're going to have to reload there, losing Lewis Powell. I like the guy they got. He was at Pittsburgh. He used to coach Aaron Donald. He used to coach with T.J. Watt as well at Wisconsin. This guy knows a few things. So those are the two groups I'm looking at. Those are two splash hires, and we got a big shoes to fill, right?
No doubt. And the question is, in terms of Jordan Gross, and I love that Coach Gerke's there, and when I heard that, I'm like, okay, it's going to be all right. Because it's one thing to be able to play the game at a high level and have all the talent in the world, but how difficult is it to translate what you know and actually disseminate that in the terms of coaching? Because not all guys can coach, even if they're highly talented.
That's exactly right. Remember Magic Johnson?
Yeah.
Was that 94, 95? He lasted 30 games. Michael Jordan's never hopped in there. Larry Bird's one of the few exceptions. We're talking about basketball. And in football, we're seeing it with Deion a little bit. We're seeing it with some other guys. Jordan Gross, his reputation is a very highly intellectual person who has freak athletic ability. So we're going to see if he can communicate. I think he can based on the high school level. He just trained the best recruit in the country at the position. And he's known as a guy who doesn't mess around. So that is the thing that we're going to be all looking at, right? We led the nation in rushing last year. Where do you go from there, right? Any step behind is a step backwards. So they got big shoes to fill. I think that Jordan's going to be great, though. The D-line is another animal, right? They got a new coordinator over there, Mr. Swan. I think Morgan will have a big say what's going on. And then you got Chad Bumpus at receivers, who I used to work with intimately. He was a GA under Doc Holliday years ago. He was at Mississippi State. Great guy. A lot of energy, the all-time leading receiver, I think, in Mississippi State history. He's a good communicator. What I want to know, Scotty, where do you see this team going forward? Is they going to have an issue at quarterback? No. Running back, he's probably the best player on the team. The position's always going to be this. What do we do at receiver? What did we get in receiver? Last year we didn't have a great room. The year before was average. That's the room I'm looking at always going forward for the Utah Utes. What are we doing at receiver, and what's the plan?
Well, there's one receiver that I saw a lot that was at Utah State last year that was a near a 1,000-yard receiver, and had he played in the bowl game, he would have broken 1,000. And, Braden Pagan is a really good receiver. Now, that's at the Mountain West level. When you take up a step to the Big 12 and you're getting harassed by corners that like to jam you at the line, that's going to be another question, because there's going to be a level of physicality that he didn't experience at the Mountain West level.
That's exactly right. And that kid's really good. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I saw him play a couple times. We took a kid out of New Mexico last year, Mr. Davis. He was all right. To your point, that level, sometimes there's a shift there. I remember C.O.C. Mariner, he went down to Utah State, became all-world. He was pretty good at Utah. Mm-hmm. So we'll see about that. The spring was a big indicator for us last year on the quarterback. I wasn't sold on him because he's short until I saw him in the spring, and he looked great. So I'm looking forward to this spring. I want to see that room perform, and I want to see this defensive line room and offensive line room. Those are the three spots, and those new hires where could be some question marks. I'm a believer in what we got going on, but that's a lot of talent to replace. How many linemen? I think I did the math, including the Sam backer and the tight end. We're replacing 12 or 13 guys on the front line. That's a lot.
Well, and especially when you got your anchors on your offensive line that both of them are expected to go in the first round of the draft. You're not going to replace that overnight. That's just that. Those are two first-round picks. That just doesn't happen when your right tackle and left tackle both go in the first round.
Say that one more time, Scotty.
I'm just saying, how difficult is it going to be to try to replace? Because I don't think you can. If you can get close to, great. But when you have two guys, your two tackles that are expected to go in the first round of the NFL draft, you just don't replace that overnight.
Of course not. Those guys might go top 10. I got the pleasure to go visit with Mr. Fano. We have the same agent in Orange County. He looked unbelievable. And I know all about Mr. Lomu. My brother coached him in high school, at Highland High School. Those two kids come around maybe, once every 15 years? I think Jordan Gross was really the last one, him and Mr. Bowles. But, we've had a rich tradition there. So it's hard to say, Scotty, but I know this. A freshman at offensive line, left tackle, when's the last time that was done at Utah?
Ended up being pretty good.
Yep.
All right, Trevor Reilly, kind enough to join us from Hawaii right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, best food in Hawaii. Ready to go.
Poi. It's made from taro plant, but I like poi, and obviously you got Kahlua pork. Anything pig related, man. They're running like wild out here. We went and hunted a little bit yesterday, but anything that comes from the pig seems to be pretty good.
I love it. Only Trevor Reilly be hunting pigs out in Hawaii. Those wild boars, man, you don't mess with those.
Nah, man, they're huge, dude. If you don't stay light on your feet, they'll ram you. We had Blecken and Senny out there doing it yesterday, and I got to tell you, man, this place is special. Okay, we've had a lot of great players out here. I can't help but think about Coach Mack and just the start of this thing, and where Utah is at now. Michigan just fires their AD or their general manager and Coach Witz over there. Utah is a national story. BYU has this stuff going on. Football in itself for the state of Utah, it's pretty exciting, man. We got a lot of storylines even going into the spring.
How, for you that played for Kyle Whittingham, and he's always going to have a special place in your heart, how are you with the Michigan thing? I mean, does it hurt a little bit? Is there a little bit of like, okay, I'm happy for you, but I'm also not very happy for you? Like, what are your emotions on that as a former player?
It's tough. The hard thing is you love him so much as a coach, right? And not everybody loved Coach Witt, but I loved him. I thought he was awesome. But he's in the job. Coach and Dion said it best. You're either getting fired or you're getting hired. I think we saw that happen, in a weird way over the last couple of months. But to see him at Michigan, it feels good to have one of our guys there. Even BYU can celebrate Coach Witt. He's one of their great all-time players. And I think it's pretty this Utah, because however Michigan does, that's going to be a storyline connected to Utah, especially with all the players they took over there and the coaches.
You were at Utah when Jay Hill was still there, correct? Or had he already left for Weber? Yeah.
No, I was there with him for all 5 years, man. Jay was our special teams coordinator.
What makes him such a great coach?
He's attention to detail and he's intense. I always make the comment, he likes to exercise more than anyone I ever met coaching. And he does the same type of fanaticism when he coaches. He's fanatic about details and effort. And that's what you want from a coach, man. He makes you do what you're supposed to do at a high level of effort. He's been successful. I'm still shocked he's not a head coach, man. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, you would know better than me, Scotty. What is that? Why isn't Jay Hill a head coach?
I think that he's I know for a fact that Utah State offered him, and that he came very close to taking the Utah State job last year, and he turned it down and decided to stay at BYU, and then Utah State went and got Bronco Mendenhall. I think there's been opportunities. I think he just was in a good situation at BYU and decided, you know what, I'm just going to ride this out and wait for the perfect opportunity, and who knows, maybe in 2 years he's the head coach in Michigan.
That could be a thing. I think he's got a lot of good things coming with his health scare. His wife's fantastic. I'm impressed with the whole operation that they got going on at Michigan. They just fired their whole personnel staff. That means they're rehiring. I think that they're going to rebuild and set the tempo, set the standard for what scouting is going to look like in college football. They have unlimited money. They have a new head coach, and they have a new strategy now. I'm kind of excited about that.
How much – we talk about money and unlimited money, and we talk about NIL, but you've been in the middle of this. Just how much, when you have that blank check to go out and get whoever you want, just how much of an advantage does that give you over a team that may be a Power 4 school and may have some good resources, but nowhere near to the level of what Michigan has?
It's like gambling. You go to the casino, you're probably going to lose, but you might win every once in a while, Scotty. You go there, I hit after tonight. You try to go back, you're probably going to lose. And that's how it is when you're playing with no money. When you're at the middle of the road or you're at the bottom, just like the NBA, is there a worse place to be, Scotty, for the Jazz right now?
Nope.
You're either winning or you're losing in college football. And the hard thing is that if you lose 3 games, your season's over. Utah saw that last year. Lost 2 games, the season's over. So when you talk about that margin of error, you got to have your money tight. If not, you're gambling. So you're going to have a few schools that reach that type of, oh, shoot, we broke the BCS, so we're going to get in. But it's really just it's few and far between. And to your point about Colorado, we're seeing that play out over there. They're a bad season away from everybody getting let go, maybe.
Yeah.
And the reason why isn't anything more. They don't have any money. Utah's figuring that out. We've talked about it ad nauseum. BYU's figured it out. Michigan's figured it out. We're on our way at Utah, though. I think we're getting organized, okay? I've been into some meetings, and we're on the right path. I think that this private equity deal. By the way, Scotty, what's the latest of that? Has that been approved? Are we going to get audited like we did when we decided we didn't want to play BYU about 10 years ago? Remember they audited the athletic department?
Well, and I do know
be an audit situation.
It frankly wouldn't surprise me because I do know, and when that deal went down, or at least it was announced, I had a couple of state legislators that I know that sent me a text and said, "Oh, we're gonna dig into this. We're not sure if we're cool allowing a public university to essentially sell part of its athletic department to a private equity." So, and then all of a sudden it's gone quiet, Trevor. Like, we haven't heard a word. So I don't know what's going on. I don't think Utah has access to any of that money yet. So I don't know where it's at. We got to do a little digging on that. I appreciate the heads up because, we may not be doing our due diligence here on the station and trying to follow up and see what's up.
Well, there's some conspiracy theorists that think that maybe it was all a ruse just to get the attention off the debt. We knew it was never going to go through. We put it out there. It dies down, and then we're back at square one. Everyone's in debt, which is what the message is, by the way. All college football programs, for the most part, that aren't top, blue chippers, they're in debt.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this up again. I feel like the Grinch who stole Christmas because we just had a great season. We got a new staff. Everybody's excited. I'm still concerned about our finances going forward. As a GM, can you imagine? You don't know what your salary cap is next season, Scotty. How do you recruit?
Yeah, you can't.
How do you make plans?
Yeah.
And you end up becoming what's called a last-minute Jerry, dude. Everything's done last minute, and somehow it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't like that. I don't play that, dude. So I walked away from a situation like that, and a lot of people don't feel that way. We're on the right path, I think. To your point, we got to check in on that one. We, the people, got to check in on they're going to sell away 40%, 2 board seats, and a bunch of money. What are we doing about that? And to me, Scotty, to put that deal in a nutshell, because a friend of mine always says radio's not linear. When you talk about giving away 2 board seats and a large amount of your say in how you're going to run your business, as a government entity, right, that is a serious thing. Imagine just all of a sudden someone saying, we're going to go ahead and contract out the military. We know that hasn't worked out well in times past. You've got to have a lot of oversight. You're talking about money. So I want to see where that goes, right? A lot of the reporters in town have been digging around. I know the holidays are over, but, Scotty, what are we doing about these finances? That's always the number one question. What's the plan?
Well, and you talk about the last-minute Jerry, and I think that's really where a lot of schools are right now, and the ones that have the competitive edge know exactly how much money they have, know exactly what they can work with, and they've got a plan, and they're organized, and they can go forward. I talked to an athletic director who said, essentially told his coaches, like, look, go spend money, and I'll try to find a way to raise it. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, what is that, dude?
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Baseball, dude. That ain't nothing real, man. We did that in Colorado and everywhere, and Utah has done it. It's a disaster. You find out, by the way, all y'all around town, all these people who say they write checks, they don't.
Yeah.
There's a few people who write some checks around town. Don't let anybody get it twisted. I'm talking about serious money. I'm talking about $1 million plus money, the money that you need. So to your point, Scotty, if you don't have those guys in your back pocket, you're literally just flailing in the wind, man. We're going to raise some money. We'll figure it out. What the freak, man? What is that?
Trevor, I love chatting with you, man. You're the best. I can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having me on, guys. And Lloyd, we'll have lunch when I come back into town, all right?
You got it, Trev.
And Trevor's going to bring a couple dudes in white shirts and ties with him.
Hey, Scotty, you're already in the building, dude. You got it?
I know. I'm with you. We'll work on him together. It's all good.
All right, boys. Thank you, guys.
Hey.
I'm on a bus headed to Kilauea. They want me to get off this phone.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll let you do your thing. There he is. Trevor Reilly, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm really looking forward to this. I was telling my wife this earlier this morning. Lloyd, back in the day, and when I say back in the day, this isn't like a long time ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. I'd see something come across like, oh, hey, it's bad weather. And I'd be like, all right, well, cool. We'll get in the car. We'll drive through it. We'll make it happen. It didn't really bother me that much. Now, at my advanced age, I guess, now I'm like stuck on my phone during the breaks. Like, what's the weather look like in Sardine Canyon? I'm going to be driving there here pretty soon. Oh, my goodness, what's it going to – like, I don't know. When did I become a wuss when it comes to weather and driving? Like, I feel a little embarrassed of myself here a bit because
no, you're more about preparing. You're preparing yourself. I don't think you're wussing out. I think you're fine. You're just preparing yourself for the trip.
I just want to make sure I get there. Like I don't want to get into an accident, obviously, but more importantly, I just want to make sure that I'm not that guy who can't show up to call a game and then Ajay is going to be talking about punting for 2.5 hours. I love you, Ajay. No, I didn't mean
like
that.
when you do a drive-by like that, and then you have to go, love you, Ajay. I didn't even set him up, Ajay. That's all your guy.
I'm sorry.
The boss himself did that to you.
Yeah. But, no, I'm just a little paranoid. I don't want to get stuck in a ditch somewhere.
Well, let's be honest. Sardine Canyon is no joke. I've traveled through there in some spotty weather before, and you've done it more times than me, and that is not a fun drive through that canyon. I do not. No. That's what they call white knuckle driving right there.
Well, and 2 hours ago it was closed. I don't know if it's open again, but they closed it this morning.
So what do you do if it never opens? What do you do, Scotty?
I got to go through Tremont and go the old Valley View route, which is going to add another 45 minutes to the drive. So, yeah, I mean, there's ways to get around it, but it's not enjoyable by any means. So, I'm not looking forward to this. So, as soon as the show is over, fortunately, the game isn't until later tonight, and so that gives me a little bit more time to get up there. But, it should be interesting to say the least. Yeah, game starts tonight. Utah State, Boise State, 8:30 start time. So, yeah, and you're going to need all that time to get up there.
Yeah, you're not stopping. You're not stopping off for a quick lunch and stopping home, are you? You're going straight there.
No. Yeah, we're going right home. Yeah,
don't chance it.
Nope, and no stopping at Maddox. We're not doing that or any of the other. No, we're going straight through there. And you know what? If we need to call the Utah Highway Patrol to bring a plow that I can just ride behind, I'll do that. But we're going to get to that game. Make no mistake. Because it's a big one tonight, Utah State and Boise State. And anytime the Broncos come to town, that place is going to be fired up, even though Boise State just 15-10 on the year and Utah State coming in at 22-3, just outside of the top 25. BYU's got a big one tonight as well as they take on Arizona. The Wildcats, now that game not here in the Marriott Center, it's down in Tucson where the weather is considerably better. But Kevin Young talks about how his team's got to prepare for life without Richie Saunders and going up against a really good Wildcat squad.
Yeah, first let me address Richie if you guys don't mind. He in a lot of ways has been the flag bearer of just the Kevin Young era, so to speak. Just from day one, when he committed to coming back here and then everything that he did last year and this year. In a lot of ways, just a poster child of everything that we were trying to do here. And so for that, I'll forever be grateful for Richie. I think he's everything that's great about a college basketball player. The amount of people, including opposing coaches within our league, that reached out to me, about Richie in the last couple of days, I think says a lot about him. Thing I love about him is just how much of a self-made guy he is. He's gotten himself to the point he's at because of sheer work and motor and effort and want to, and paid his dues and got a lot better. It's rare in this day and age, for a guy to do what he did here at BYU. And then lastly, just his commitment to BYU, his commitment to the community, to the university, the mission of the university. He's a BYU legend and will forever and always will be. And I just want to thank him and his family and everybody that's associated with him for the type of young man he is. Now, to the question you asked about Rob scoring more, yes, I mean, we're going to need him to be a play finisher a lot in conjunction with the playmaker. I think the way he's shooting the ball, both from three, and at the basket, has been extremely impressive. And it allows AJ to play on the ball a little bit more and gives us another kind of guy who can kind of space the floor and be, like I said, a play finisher. So, Rob and AJ and everybody, quite frankly, is going to have a lot of things on their plate. And I know those guys are, those two in particular, are built for this type of thing.
All right, we'll go Darnell, then Dana.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Kevin, in terms of Richie being, a BYU guy and bleeds blue and shows everyone what it means to be a Cougar, it seems like NIL and the transfer portal kind of creates an atmosphere that doesn't make a lot of guys like that anymore. How important is it to try to find athletes to do that to help you build your culture?
It's a great question, and one, if I was a lifelong college coach, I would probably have a better answer for you. I mean, this is the iteration of college basketball that I know. I can only imagine what it was like back in the day when you could have, the same players for 3 to 4 years. I mean, that's amazing. I think in the NBA world, I think about the Spurs and the Bulls and the Warriors and these teams, even some of my short stints, like with the Suns, where you're getting the same guys year after year. I mean, that's how you build continuity, and it's very difficult in this day and age. And so you ask, how important is it? I mean, if you can do it, I think it's wildly important. How likely and realistic is it? That's a whole other question. Now, I do think at BYU specifically, there's guys that are drawn to BYU for reasons that are greater than basketball, and maybe we can build on, some of those young men. We have a couple coming in, in this recruiting class. But even that's not a shoe-in, right? I think you still have to, at the end of the day, you still have to help young men get better. You have to prove to them that you know what you're doing, so they're invested in your program. And then, like it or not, the economics have to match for both parties, and that's a challenge. There's no getting around it.
Yeah, my second question has to do with the freshmen in the league. You have a great freshman in AJ. It seems like every night in the Big 12 you're playing against another freshman that's really good. Do you think there are one or two aspects of their development in high school that may lead them to be not only good freshmen, but guys that can take over games?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could point to one thing that this freshman class would have in common as it relates to their high school careers. I think this is just a historically good class. And it's all been, I think you have to give the coaches throughout our league and the country credit where, to empower freshmen, to put them in positions so that they can showcase what they can do. I think that's, easier said than done. And to this class's credit, I mean, they've all answered the call and then some, right? So, I don't know. I don't know if I would point to one thing from their high school careers. I just think it's a historic class that you stumble upon, every so often.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Rob Wright to help pick up some of that scoring slack. What about some of the other guys with Kennard and Kostic and Mihajlo and those guys? What have you told them about being more involved in both sides of the ball, but particularly off?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have more opportunity. I think you saw it in the Colorado game. That was an extremely difficult game just from an emotional standpoint. One of the hardest games, if not the hardest game I've ever had to coach in, if I'm being honest with you. But I think you saw where multiple guys have had to step up. Tyler comes in right out of the gate, bangs 2 threes. Kostic bangs the big one. Mihai hits one. I think Kennard's playing a little bit more within himself, and I'm going to try to unlock him more. I think I've probably done him a disservice by trying to make him, a strictly a catch and shoot guy when he has a lot more to offer that I think we're going to see a lot more of now. And then we've got to explore other lineup combinations that we haven't looked at, and that's some things that we've looked at in practice. So, everything's on the table. I think where I draw the most excitement is I don't know, man. I think I do better in situations like this, back against the wall type of mentality. I've kind of operated that way my whole life, and I'm as energized as I've ever been as a coach, and I'm really taking this challenge head on. And I know a lot of people are writing us off, and I'm kind of relishing in that, and so are our guys. And when you got a group of guys like we do who are good young men, I think that they're going to rely on each other and band together, and I'm excited to see what this iteration of it looks like.
And then, going into a hostile place like Arizona, coming off 2 straight losses, they're going to be hungry. They're dealing with an injury of their own. What do you expect out of going into McHale Center?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to be that would be a great atmosphere if they were still undefeated. The fact they've lost 2, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is it's not like, oh, we're going to play extra hard because we've lost. Once you play the game, you got to execute the game plan. So every team needs wins this time of year, especially in our league. The standings are tight. Everyone's playing for something. So I've never bought into I say it to my guys all the time. I wake up motivated, and so I don't need extra motivation. I'm sure they don't either. We're hungry. They're hungry. It's going to be a good ball game.
I can throw one more in there. You kind of mentioned that underdog mentality. Everyone's kind of writing you off, which is opposite for when you started the year. That big expectations. People talking Final Four. How do you use this to your advantage with the team? You talked about yourself, you like that. No one giving you a chance. Did you address that with your guys now that everyone's kind of written you off, and let's prove everyone wrong?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I met with Rob and AJ separately. I think those are 2 guys that in a lot of ways can cement their legacy in college basketball with how they handle this time period between now and the end of the season. What kind of impact can they have? Can they elevate a team? And that's motivating in and of itself. And so with the whole group, though, yeah, it's a band of brothers. It's digging in. It's some guys that hasn't gone their way to this point. All right, well, guess what? You want more opportunity. You just got it. So now what are you going to do with it? And so, again, I'm extremely motivated, knowing that it's not going to be easy. But, nothing's ever really that easy. So, you got to figure it out. That's the bottom line. And like I said, I told our group yesterday, man, this is not new for me. I've been doing this. I coached in the minor leagues for 9 years. I've had my best player called up day of game multiple times. I've lost multiple players throughout seasons. You got to figure it out. You got to adjust on the fly. And, I try to say that to them so that they would have confidence to understand that they have a staff that, and it's not just me. I've got several guys who kind of their career path was that. And so drawing upon those past experiences for me gives me some confidence, and I hope it gives the group confidence as well. And, based on what I've seen in practice the last 2 days, I think, our group is ready.
How do you think this affects Richie's NBA draft status? Obviously, with coming off a major surgery like this, he's going to have. But when he's back to full strength, I assume it doesn't affect it at all?
Yeah, no, it's something that it's going to take a lot of due diligence, from his agent, from me as well, talking to different people. I do know that there's a boatload of people that love him. The good thing for Richie and what he did at Kansas, I think probably helped his draft stock more than probably anything else that could have happened for this season. And look, I mean, in today's day and age, what happened to his knee is not the end of the world by any stretch. People come back from it all the time. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I'm hopeful that maybe it gives him a little bit more control in terms of what team he actually goes to, which in my estimation is one of the most important things any player going into the NBA could do, is to go to the right team, the right fit, the right organization. But we'll work hand in hand with his agency. I'll do anything I can to help him. I love that guy, and absolutely just wrecked that happened to him. But I think everyone that's followed Richie Saunders' career knows that if there's one guy in America that could work through some adversity and come back stronger, it's Richie Saunders, and I think everybody would agree with that.
There he is, Kevin Young, head coach of BYU, as they get set for a massive battle tonight in Tucson against Arizona. All right, we'll wrap up this bad boy coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.